Welcome back to Business Breakfast in Bedhead. I actually do these live calls on Instagram. I would love for you to come and hang out with me at them. So if you don't already follow me at Dawn Bradley, DAWNBRADLEY, should have made a song about that. Go follow me there because then you can take part in these live calls and you can actually chat with me. But if you can't make them, no sweat. Now they're going to be here. So welcome to Business Breakfast in Bedhead. Buckle up, friend, and let's dive in. I overthink, I overshare, and I overanalyze. So come explore with me as I chat about business, life, and relationships, all through the lens of an anxious creative. Hello and good morning to Business Breakfast in Bedhead. Today we're going to talk about how to get new clients in if you are struggling with an empty schedule, if you are needing to get more clients in, if you're wanting to make a shift and change in your business, whether it be your pricing is changing, your services is changing, your schedule is changing. I'm going to share with you how you can get more clients in quickly and easily, getting out of your own way. If you seem to be someone who seems to self-sabotage, find excuses, find ways around actually doing, you keep yourself busy but not productive, this is a live for you. Good morning and welcome. I'm so excited to be going live. If you want new clients today, put a 1 in the chat. Hi, Angelina, because I'm really excited to share this with you guys this morning. So before we dive into it, I want to share with you guys, I've built and rebuilt my clientele 6 different times on 3 different continents. It's not that I got it figured out and that I had some magic anointing happen. It's because I continued to show up, try new things, and keep picking myself back up. I failed miserably the first time I ever invited someone to be my client. I was 18 years old. I was in hair school. Or no, I don't even know if I think I was in my first job. I was sick of sweeping hair off the floor. I was sick of washing color bowls for my coworkers. I just wanted to be busy, but I wasn't getting busy enough from walk-ins. And at the time, you know what, I'm amazed at my 18-year-old self because I didn't blame anyone else but myself. I knew that I was in control of how busy I was. So if you find that you're pointing the finger at other people, whether it be your boss, whether it be the location, you're finding ways to take the responsibility off yourself. The first thing I want to do, and I know this isn't the answer you want to hear, is start taking wild responsibility over the results that you're going to get. The only person that you have that you can fully count on is yourself. And so the moment that I went, how can I want to get busier? What can I do? Instead of looking at the circumstances, the salon, all the things that I could wait to happen first before I take action, I started to take messy, immediate, imperfect action. I went and got a card from my salon. I didn't have my name on it because I didn't get to have cards with my names on it till I made commission. I wrote it. It didn't look cute. I went to the grocery store and I fumbled over my words. I tripped up over everything. I made a fool out of myself. The girl gave a weird look to me. I invited her to be my client, and guess what? She never came. The reality is you're going to get rejected more than you're going to get accepted, and rejection is part of the game. It's not that you have to pick the person that's going to say yes. It's that you have to show up and start practicing and continue to practice to get better. And the only way to get better is to not think about it, to not plan about it, but to do it. And so I want you to ask yourself, what am I doing? Not thinking about, not planning, not strategizing, what am I physically doing to actually get a client in my chair? And a lot of times we're like, well, I use social media. Well, are you scrolling social media? Are you posting, convincing yourself, well, I hope I'm doing the posts and I'm doing all the viral trends and nobody's booking in. How are you actively taking action, not passively? Posting on social media is a passive approach. And I know some people will fight me on that. Some people will have a different opinion. But unless you're in the DMs on people, unless you're actively saying, I would like to do X service. I know I talk a lot to hairstylists, but I know this benefits anybody else. What are you actively doing? And I want you guys to participate with me. So one thing I like to share on my lives is this is a safe space and a judgment-free zone where we can show up real, raw, honest, and vulnerable together. There is no shame in where you're at. If you're rebuilding, if you're coming back after some time away, if you just moved to a new city, this isn't just for new beginners. This is for the beginners it's easiest for, to be honest. If you're new into your industry, it's easy. It's actually been proven that the less you know, the more confident you are. And so building a clientele after you've been in your industry for a while is actually harder because you know more. The more you know, the less confident you become. That whole ignorance is bliss is a real thing. And so building a clientele is actually harder for those of us that have been in the industry longer. Yet meanwhile, you're sitting here shaming yourself thinking, I should know better, I should be better, I shouldn't have to deal with this, I'm really skilled and talented. Guess what? Your skill and talent have nothing to do with how booked up you are. And the longer you've been doing your service, the longer you've been in your industry, the less confident you're gonna feel because you know more. And so cut yourself some slack today. Give yourself a pat on the back. Give someone in the chat props for showing up here. Can we all just like give like the clap emoji or something for each and every one of you? It's actually harder the longer you're in. I see so many people shaming new people in industries, being like, I can't believe they charge that much, or I can't believe like when we had to pay our dues. Let's stop shaming people for having confidence in the beginning. Let's stop shaming people for wildly and shamelessly going after what they want and taking courageous, messy, immediate, imperfect action. And let's start adopting that, because you've gotten in your own head because you know things. You're less confident because you know more. And be willing to be seen failing. I fail time and time and time again, and I still hold myself back in certain ways. And so recognizing that building your clientele, getting new clients in, isn't going to get easier with time. It's going to get harder, because the more you know, the less confident you become. And so you have to continue to practice confidence, which confidence is made up of courage and vulnerability, showing up courageously and taking vulnerable action. So it's not about showing up, having it all together, looking like you don't break a sweat and that you never make a mistake. Confidence has come from being willing to be seen making mistakes, be willing to be seen failing. So if you need a new client today, try showing up courageously and getting vulnerable. And if you need help with that, comment the word booked and you can get my free download on how to build your clientele in under 12 weeks. 2 years in building, 12 years in and trying to rebuild my clientele. I'm 3 years in and starting from scratch. One, props to you guys for showing up and being here right now. Is it yes or no? Put in the comments yes or no. Is it kind of a breath of fresh air to realize, oh, I keep thinking it's supposed to get easier with time, and then me shining a light on the fact that the more you know, the less confident you become. And so it's like the people in the beginning are the most confident. 20 years and finally trying to build a clientele. I love that you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here. So stop shaming yourself for thinking that you should know better by now. Stop shaming yourself for thinking that you should have it figured out. Stop fantasizing with the idea that maybe if you went to another industry or maybe if you switched careers, it will be easier. Confidence is the name of the game. I know that you crave more. I'm not naturally a confident person. I was at home this weekend to my parents' house and I found like old videos of 6-year-old Dawn. It like broke my heart to see how shy and quiet she was. Really goofy with the right people. And so I didn't always have this confidence. It started from showing up courageously and vulnerably. These lives started in May of 2020 from my bed. And I would wake up groggy and embarrassed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a hairstylist. I should show up with full makeup. I should show up with full clothes. No, I take messy, immediate, imperfect action. Hi, Kimberly. And so I want to know what is actually holding you back from taking courageous, vulnerable, messy, immediate, imperfect action today, because that's what's standing in the way of you and being fully booked, in you and inviting somebody in to be your client. So let me share a story with you. When I moved to the UK, I was 22. I just turned 22, and I wanted to get a job. And I showed up at the Bedhead headquarters in Covent Garden, and my boss at the time, well, he wasn't my boss yet, was interviewing me, and he said, okay, I'd like to see you do a blowout, go get a client. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't bring a model. And he's like, no, just go out on the street. And I was like, okay. And shy 22-year-old Dawn from a small town in Saskatchewan, Canada, like shy, anxious, awkward, didn't speak up. I was in London, England, and he's like, go get a client on the street. And I was like, oh, okay. I nearly shit myself. I kid you not. I go out and I'm like, excuse me. And then people just walk by. Pardon me, just keep walking by. Won't even make eye contact. Like, you know how you are when people on the street come and like ask you a question. You're like, I'm busy. I'm like, excuse me. And then eventually I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Like, I love your hair. I'm just applying for a job and I need to give a blowout. And she's like, oh, I wish I could get one right now, but I'm busy. And I was like, oh, okay. So many people wouldn't make eye contact with me. Someone even chatted with me, but they couldn't. Okay, keep going. You're 22, like you can't, you need this job. You need to get paid. You're in a country where you know no one. Cell phones, smartphones weren't a thing yet. Social media wasn't a thing yet. Let's remind you guys, it's 2005. And I'm like, okay, keep going. And so then I was like, I don't have much time. He said, like, take the next 30 minutes and have somebody here to do a blowout in 30 minutes. So I'm like pacing the streets. Like, this is so out of my comfort zone. I am not someone that talks to strangers. I am not someone that pushes myself or asserts myself into people. And I was like, but I need a job and I need to get paid. Like, how bad do I want this? And what am I willing to do for this? And eventually I just like, excuse me, ma'am, I'm applying for a job. I'm a hairstylist and I would love to give you a blowout. Your hair is amazing. I know this seems like such an inconvenience and it would be a huge favor to me. And hopefully you'd enjoy your hair if you had 30 minutes or 45 minutes right now for me to give you a quick blowout while I'm applying for this job. And she's like, you know what? Actually, I do. It was so uncomfortable. And I need you to know this because I had to show up courageously for myself. I'm not someone who ever naturally at that point would talk to strangers or insert myself into someone's busy day. I had to be vulnerable and be like, look, I'm really needing to find somebody because I'm trying to get a job. And I'm not a new hairstylist, but I'm new here. And I was sweating, I was shaking, I was nervous. And I got the job that day, not because of my skill and talent, not because of the amazing blowout job that I did on my client. My boss said, do you know how many people go out to get a client and don't come back in? Most people aren't willing to actually do the work to get the thing. He's like, I can train skill in you. We can make your blowout better if it needs to be, but I cannot instill in you a drive and ambition and wanting it. And so what separates you from the other people that aren't going to build their clienteles is a willingness and a drive and an ambition to actually do the hard thing that most people won't be willing to do. So if you want a client today, hi Cheryl, if you want to get fully booked, you have to do the thing that most people aren't willing to do, which is take courageous, vulnerable action. That's what confidence is born from, being courageous and getting vulnerable and taking messy, immediate, imperfect action. Confidence isn't born from getting it done right the first time. Confidence isn't born from being perfect. Confidence isn't born from having your shit together. Confidence is born from being willing to show up courageously and vulnerably and take messy, immediate, imperfect action. And so what are you willing to do that 99% of people aren't willing to do? And like I said, when I was living in the UK, it wasn't that, when I look back, I'm like, it wasn't that hard. It was just uncomfortable. It's not about things having to be hard. And so many times you talk yourself out of doing something. You talk yourself out of actually doing something because it's not hard enough. It's so easy. But if it was so easy, why aren't you doing it? It's not as easy as you think it is because you're not doing it for a reason. And if you're not doing it, it's not that easy. So lean into the thing that you think is too easy or that you think you're above or that you're too good for, that I've been in the industry for 10 years. I don't need to do that. Well, that pride, that ego, it will be the death of you. That will sabotage you completely. Thinking you're too good or that you're above it or you're beyond it is bullshit. I'm sorry to say. And I say this with the most love, kindness, and compassion for you because I want you to get those results that you crave. What are you willing to do for it and how bad do you want it? Because it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It actually can be really simple. And sometimes the hardest thing you have to do is let it be easy. Sometimes you have to lean into the monotonous, boring work, which for us ADHDers is hard. The monotonous and boring. Stop thinking it has to be this whole big challenge. If this has been helpful to you, put a 1 in the chat right now. And if you have any questions for me, hit me up because this is one of my most favorite topics to talk about. If you guys didn't know, I help you build your business without sacrificing yourself. I help recovering people pleasers build their banks, their lives, business, and bank accounts without getting walked all over and sacrificing yourself. Kelly in the house. I love this. Angelina. Yes, I love it. Taylor 111. Kira, love 111. Sweet Pea, I love this. So good. I love it so much. So you guys didn't know, I go live weekday mornings around this time. I haven't been being super consistent with the time, but it's always generally in the morning to help you. And right now we're focusing on building your clientele because it doesn't matter what all you know how to do other places if you don't have a clientele. So we're starting here. I'm going to be moving into helping you sell more, create more revenue, market your business more. But honestly, if you don't know how to build your clientele, what good are you gonna be able to do? DJ's in the house. And so I want you guys to know you have to show up. If you want to build your confidence, the more you know, the less confident you are. It's a Harvard Business School book that I read. The more you know, the less confidence you have. So stop beating yourself up thinking you have to have it figured out by now. Stop thinking you should be more confident. It's actually beginners have more confidence because of that ignorance and that naive belief of unawareness. The more you know, the less confident you become. So the reality that you're struggling to fill your book, that you're struggling to get clients right now, and you're 10 years in and you're so super talented is actually normal. And so that whole self-righteous, I'm above this, I've been in this industry long enough, the thing that you won't admit out loud, but you think inside, or I'm too good to go out on the street and hand out my business cards, or I shouldn't have to ask people to be my client, they should stumble across my social media, blah, 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 blah. Whatever that little inner voice is convincing you of that you would actually never admit out loud, but you're like, oh shit, she's right. I do think I'm better than this. I do think I'm above this. And if this is hitting home, just like put a 1 in the chat, because I want to know, I mean, this is stuff that I've dealt with, and it's hard to admit when you're like, oh my God, I thought I was such a humble person, but inside I was so into myself being like, I'm above this, I'm better than this. Like, oh yeah, that's good for a beginner, but like not me. I should be able to post on social media and people should just like come to me. That can happen in time. But if you're not willing to do the dirty work, if you're not willing to get your hands messy, get your hands dirty, why would people come to you? If you're not actually, if you're living under false confidence, which is all ego, thinking you deserve things, you need to give your head a shake. And it's hard. And I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to you guys. Is this making sense? Put a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. And if you have real life examples of what you need help with getting more clients, let me know. Textures and curls, hello. Because at the end of the day, we have to take, it's not everything else around us. It's not your boss. It's not your workplace. It's not your location. I built and rebuilt my clientele 6 times on 3 different continents. It's not that I had it figured out. It's that I was willing to show up messy. I was willing to fail. I was willing to make mistakes. I was willing to pick myself back up again. I don't have it all figured out still. If I had to go build a clientele again now, I would still feel uncomfortable. Not soon as I hope, as I off, not as soon as I open the live. I'm not sure if I understand. But I want you to know that you have complete control, and so many of us here are control freaks. And yet when it comes to the thing we want the most control out of, when we realize what we have to do to be in control, we're like, oh, I'm not in control. It's social media. It doesn't work for me. It's the algorithm. It's my boss. It's this. No, it's you. And I'm so sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And this is some tough love with Dawn this morning. But you have to start taking wild responsibility over your life and your results. And when you do, I mean, it's hard to look in the mirror and be like, I'm the one in control. And I get that there's probably an exception to this, where there's certain things that are out of control. Let's remember, I'm not a black and white, like hardcore, like it's all in all this way. But majority of the time, you have control over your results. You have control to make a change. You're just unwilling to take it because then if you fail, you're responsible. It's really hard to show up and take 100% wild responsibility over your life and your future, because then if you fail, you have to look at yourself. Where if you can point the finger and be like, well, it's this, then if it doesn't work out, you have something that you don't have to take responsibility for. And taking responsibility fucking sucks sometimes. I will tell you this, because things will happen in your life, and this is going beyond building a clientele, things will happen in your life that are not your fault, that you should have not had to suffer from, that you should not have had to go through, that you shouldn't have to deal with. Sometimes we suffer of someone else's fight against themselves. Sometimes we are collateral damage in someone else's fight against themselves. But it doesn't mean that you get to sit and have a pity party forever, being like, if you were at a red light, this is my favorite analogy to use in life, business, relationships. If you're sitting at a red light, you're stopped there and a car doesn't see it. It comes up and it slams into the back of your car and completely wrecks your car. It's not drivable. That's not your fault. However, would you just sit at home and be like, well, I don't have a car now. It's not my fault. It's that person's fault. They should get me a new car. They should fix my car. It's not my fault. I shouldn't have to do anything. It's not my fault. You'd be sitting at home for a long time, because what happens when that happens? It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to get your car into the garage. Now there's insurance and blah, 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 but it's your responsibility to take action on getting your car fixed. It's your responsibility to get your car drivable. And it would feel really good to be like, it's not my fault, I shouldn't have to deal with this. Absolutely, you shouldn't have to deal with some of the shit you're going through in your business, in your career, in your relationships, in your life. Absolutely. I want to affirm the fact that lots of the stuff that you're dealing with right now, that you're overwhelmed with, and you're like, building a clientele is the least of my worries, Dawn. Like, I just need clients, but like, I can't put the energy into that because of all this other shit. It's not your fault. It sucks. You know what? My house has been a complete shit show. I've had in-floor heating leaks. I had scaffolding up, got new windows and new roof. Right now I'm dealing with a flood that happened to me. Not my fault. I didn't build this place. Not my fault. I bought it. It's my responsibility. It sucks to have to deal with. But the reality of the fact is that's life. That's life. You have to take responsibility. And the moment you start going, well, this isn't my fault. This sucks. I can't control this, but I got to show up and take responsibility for it. Watch things change and happen. Stop being in this entitlement. And I'm speaking to myself just as much as I'm speaking to you. Know this entitlement of like, well, I shouldn't have to. Absolutely, you shouldn't have to. Absolutely, you shouldn't have to. I was in a 10-year relationship that I got cheated on. That sucks. That really, really sucks. And I was in shock for a long time over what I saw with my own 2 eyes, what I witnessed, what I found, what I heard, right? It sucks. I could sit and become bitter. I could sit and be like, well, that shouldn't have happened to me. It shouldn't have. It's not my fault. It's my responsibility to move forward above and beyond. It's not my fault that stuff in business has happened. It's not my fault. It's not your fault that maybe you don't have, some of your clients have left. Some of your clients have shifted and changes. That's not your fault. That some of your clients haven't come back to you since you went on maternity leave. But it's your responsibility to move forward. You're not out of touch. You're not irrelevant. You can build it again. It's harder to build a clientele the more farther in you are into your career. The newbies have it easy. They have the confidence, the ignorance, the blind belief, right? It's actually harder to build your clientele the longer you've been in. So I want to validate that feeling in you. Has this been helpful? Put a 1 in the chat if this has been helpful. And if you have any questions, hit me up. I'm just writing down because I think that's a good post, just to remind you guys, it's harder to build a clientele. Jesse, yeah. And if you want help, put the word booked in the chat, and I have an automation set up that it'll text you the link to get my client attraction playbook. And right now, today, I'm actually on my to-do list, is I'm going to be hosting a 3-part workshop series on how to build your clientele. And it's going to be live because I want to be able to help you guys in real time. Love it. Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, if I can't help you specifically, booked. I love it. I love it. You guys are amazing. This was so fun to go live. I've missed you. I took a little bit of a long weekend over the weekend. But I'm here to help you. I'm kind of a newbie and still finding it hard to get new clients within clearing costs. Is that an autocorrect or a typo? If you can clear that up, Taylor, let me know. With inflation costs. Okay, so here's the thing. Price is not my number one factor. If you are focusing on getting clients by the price of your service, then you're going to attract discount seekers. And we all know, I remember when Groupon came, I had a client who was like, yeah, I buy Groupon all the time and I go to the one thing and I never go back. Discount seekers, Grouponers, there's exceptions to everything, obviously. And I want you guys to remember this, those of you guys that are, because I don't want to have to preface this, but I know there's a lot of new people here. I don't believe in 100% black and white. There's exceptions to everything always. And so if it sounds like I'm saying something absolute, know that I do understand and believe there are exceptions. But discount seekers rarely are people who are looking to build a relationship and longevity. And so what you need to do, Taylor, is focus on the value. Focus on, this is stuff that I teach inside of my program, Rock Your Business. Focus on the experience you're creating. Why would someone come to you above and beyond the service you provide? What is unique to you? What is something outside of, for me as a hairstylist, I had a candy buffet and I had puppy snuggles and I worked alone before salon suites were a thing. And so I really attracted people that wanted that quiet, quaint, intimate experience. They wanted a break from reality. So I really marketed myself as someone who you come to me and you get away from reality. You escape it and sit in luxury. You get a latte, you get some candy, you get puppy snuggles. Had nothing to do with getting their hair. Right? And so you want to focus, you want to know who you're trying to attract, why you're attracting them, and how you can draw them in. Was that helpful? I love this. Well, this has been so fun to go live, you guys. Once again, go ahead and comment the word booked if you want to get my free playbook. And that way you'll also get first dibs via email all about my 3-part series that I'm going to be running to help you build your clientele. It's going to be really, really amazing. I can't wait to see you there. And I'll go live here again tomorrow morning to help you with more stuff around building your clientele. All right, you guys, love you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. And if you haven't tuned into the Anxious Creative Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, go subscribe now because there are so many good nuggets over on the podcast. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast and for tuning into Business Breakfast and Bedhead. Like I said, I would love for you to join me live on these over on Instagram. So once again, just look up Dawn Bradley and let's connect. Shoot me a DM, send me a screenshot, tag me in your stories of listening to this or what you took away from this. Those comments, that feedback really makes my day and helps me know that these things are landing and that you want to hear more. I do these lives and I do this podcast for you to help you, and your feedback means the world to me. And if you enjoyed this episode, help me spread the love. Share it with a friend, a coworker, family member, or leave a review. And make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time. Until then, friend, stay weird.